Hi, this is an introduction to the LazyPBX call analytics system. LazyPBX is perfect for small businesses who don't want to deploy hardware and yet still want a powerful system to handle their calls. What you see in front of me is the LazyPBX call flow. On the top you'll see an edit button that allows you to change and edit the call flow as you would like. So what we have here on the left hand side is the phone number that's going to be called, and then it comes into a menu system. Then we have a graphing component, and finally a block that reads some text out. If we double click on any of these, we can see the values. So for example, this block is going to say you pressed 1. It's going to do text to speech translation. So first of all, just to introduce the call analytics system, the call analytics is going to use the counter. It's basically every graph block that you see here is a small counter, and it will take the value of the label. So here we have the label pressed 1. This is what's going to be counted. Every time a call comes through this way into the menu and somebody presses 1, a counter is going to be hit. And what we can do is we can graph that using the menu for call analytics in the top of the page. And what you see here is you can have, first of all, if I just delete that, you can see that you have a graph over time of the calls as they enter the system. This is the overall calls here. If you hover over it, you can see the quantities on every day. So at the top you have a 40-week graph, and on the bottom we have a continuous 4-week. The gray area is highlighting what's going to be displayed down there, and as you can see, it's a very nice tactile interface. So what we see is we've already set up some counters. We switch back, we see we've pressed 1 and pressed 2, and we have a number of logs that have come in from that period. So what we could do is we can see how many calls have pressed 1 over the period, and we can see how many calls have pressed 2 over the period. What we can also do is add an extra graph, and we can chart how many people have pressed 1 and how many pressed 2, and we can see both of them together. What we can also do is we can compare a different period in time. So we can look at how many people have pressed 2, and we can slide the slider so that we go back a week, and then we can see the different quantities of calls on the different times. And we can do this in the same way for the main number, because if we just switch back here again, we see that this number block here has a built-in counter. So every number that you drop onto the actual call flow is going to have an automatic counter anyway, and will appear here without you doing anything. What I'm going to do now is I will just do a quick example of how you would actually add a new counter. So what we're going to do here is, let's say for example that we have another option where the user presses 3. So quickly I'm going to just drag a new graph block down here, and I'm going to say the person has pressed 3. Now I will put in a new say text block, and we will just do the same thing. We'll just connect that, and we'll say you pressed 3. So that's what the person is going to hear when they call in. And then we'll connect number 3, output 3, which is what happens when somebody presses digit 3. So when they press digit 3 on the menu, they call in, then they press 3, and then it will go out to the say text, and you'll see that will begin to count. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to apply changes to that. So those changes are being written to the backend system. In the meantime, we look at this, you see that on the menu, no sound options are configured. And what happens then is that when we dial into the system, we will just hear a beep when we call into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial in straight away now. I hear the beep, and now I've pressed 3, and it says you've pressed 3. This is all happening in real time. Now what we see is if we go to our counter, and we will just do a page refresh on that, and what we should see is we now have a new one called 3, and you can see that it has been pressed 1 time when I just called just there. And if we compare it again, we can see that the counter today, we can compare it against today. So you see our total number of calls today was 4, and one person chose 3 from the blue. You can see that's the blue graph. So you can see that the call analytics system is very powerful. It allows you to have ultimate flexibility. You can decide to put a graph wherever you want. If you want, you can put it before, after. You can put it where after extensions, before extensions. You can see if staff are answering the phone. You can use it to decide if people are choosing to have sales calls. If you have multiple phone numbers attached, you will automatically get graphing for each phone number. It's, I think, the most flexible call analytics system out there, and we're hoping to link it in with page views and other facilities like that, so you can actually track ads and paper ads and see how your ads are performing in relation to cost and all those things. Thank you very much for listening. It was a pleasure to deliver this presentation. Goodbye.